Welcome into hardcore Penn State football. Spring practice is underway here in a very windy State College, Pennsylvania. March Madness is right around the corner, so we're going to get a little mad tonight. No, not really, but well, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how we feel.
Just ask Cory about parking.
Right. Yes. Can a brother
Don't
get
worry,
a park? Can a brother get a parking pass? Thanks for being here. Make sure to subscribe whether you're listening on a podcast or on YouTube. Let's get into the show. Welcome into hardcore Penn State football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Shawn Kane. How are you doing today, Shawn?
Not too bad, Cory. I was actually at my high school's basketball game last night, and they just made it to the state championship. Guess who they will be playing in the state finals?
Is it a Penn State football recruit?
Penn State football recruit plays on the team they will be playing.
Is that recruit's name a nickname that we like to refer to him by?
I don't think he has a nickname, so he's for next year's class.
Wait,
he's not He's not going to be a freshman this fall. He's going to be
right. Well, it's not a nickname, but like Tiki isn't his actual full name, is it?
Yes. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yes. I don't know what team he plays for.
Yeah. So Tiki Hayes.
Yeah.
Plays for the Aliquip Equips.
That's
I
right.
believe they won the state championship in football too, so they'll be taking on my Holy Cross Crusaders on Friday. So hoping the Crusaders could.
Where's that game at?
That'll be in Hershey. So yeah, exciting stuff. My high school alma mater, not a good football school, but great basketball school. So I do hope they could get it done.
Holy Cross sounds like a future Big East basketball team of the high school realm.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to put it. Yeah, they were like I said, they were always good at basketball, but never good at football ever, including when I was on the team. We were not good. So,
Shawn, did you mind telling everybody that the reason, well, not the actual reason, but the original reason why you were going to take off work these next 2 days?
Yeah, it was to watch the first 2 days of March Madness.
Didn't know you were that big of a basketball fan. To give up some PTO to watch some March Madness.
You know, it's something that I never did before, ever. So I just thought, why not? You know, I'm getting married next year, so I'll have to save up that time. And then shortly after, I'll probably be having kids. So thought this is if I'm gonna do it, I better do it this year. So that's kind of my thought process.
Alrighty then. You know, yeah, I feel very isolated from March Madness this year. Like I'm gonna fill out a bracket tonight, but just don't really. I don't know why. I just feel like maybe it snuck up on me a little bit. Like didn't even like watch any of Selection Sunday. Didn't watch any of the first 4 games, but
Big Ten's week this year, so
right, and a lot of Big Ten teams didn't make it.
Yeah, and then you get a team like Michigan State, who is a borderline, and they're a 9 seed. So there are a lot of things that just didn't really make sense to me this year, and none of the most of the Big East got shut out. It was very odd. A lot of the selections.
Yeah.
No Penn State.
Yeah, exactly. I want to give a shout out to Rohan Murphy. Give us some football and fire emojis on the YouTube channel. Thanks for that. Shawn, there was a little segment from Penn State football on social media yesterday. They had defensive coordinator Tom Allen mic'd up. I don't know. We're gonna have to get the soundboard back, and just so I can get a new little sound bite instead of the Owen Wilson. Wow, I think we need the Tom Allen. Yeah, baby, because he said yeah, baby, like probably 8 times in a minute 30 clip that they put on social media. So we're gonna have to get the yeah, baby on the soundboard.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby. That sounds like a great idea.
I think this was Sean Fitz. I don't know. Actually, I don't know who said it, but it might have been Nate Bauer. But thought it was kind of funny. Like Manny Diaz, not a whistle guy. Tom Allen, very much a whistle guy.
I
I
could
mean,
totally see that.
he's just blowing the whistle for the hell of it. So, not everything is going to be the same this year between what Diaz did and Allen, and probably it starts with the whistle. But thought that was pretty funny. But spring practice is going. Before we get there, did want to mention that we talked about pretty much everybody last time. The one person we almost missed was that Blake Gillikin signed to the Cardinals. Just recently, though, former Penn State defensive tackle PJ Mustafer signed with the Eagles. So yet another person signed there. Unfortunate news: Deshaun Hamilton, who worked out at the Pro Day, got banged up again. Saquon Barkley was in town. Trace McSorley was in town, but and Drew Aller got to throw to Theo Johnson in the Pro Day, so Drew Aller got some early Pro Day stuff there as well. I guess we can go that route and go Pro Day first. If there's anything else you wanted to mention from that on Friday, Sean.
Yeah, I think a fun little thing to mention is I think Eagles fans might be a little upset with James Franklin. I don't know if did you see the tampering thing?
I did. I saw that he was that yesterday where he said basically that he assumed a conversation had taken place that he shouldn't have.
Yes. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a miscommunication there, that Saquon said he was talking to Howie Roseman, and that would have meant that they were tampering, but didn't end up apparently being that way. So a little bit of a miscommunication that involving involving James Franklin, involving Saquon Barkley, involving the Philadelphia Eagles. So I could just imagine like the amount of people that we have so many Eagles fans in our audience, and there are so many Eagles fans that are Penn State fans, and that they just must be like, oh my God, one is causing problems with the other. So, but it doesn't look like there'll be anything that comes of it.
I wanted to mention some 40 times. First of all, Kalen King ran a 4.52, which is better. Keaton Ellis ran a 4.43. And another guy that I don't think we mentioned last week, I feel bad that we didn't mention, Trey Potts ran a 4.6, which is pretty good time. Keaton Ellis also had a 39-inch vert, so Keaton Ellis ended up having pretty good all-around measurements, which is pretty sweet in that regard. The only other thing I really wanted to mention that has nothing to do with Penn State football is that Olu Fashanu said that LeBron James was the GOAT over Michael Jordan. I don't know if you caught that or not.
He's correct.
I agree, 100%.
That's one of I could hear the people getting angry now, but
I mean, when you think about it, going back to the Keaton Ellis thing, I honestly think Keaton Ellis could get drafted, and I mean, I'm talking 7th rounder perhaps, but if you look at it, Kalen King, Johnny Dixon, Daquan Hardy, and Keaton Ellis. You imagine 4 Penn State defensive backs being drafted in the same draft? Like that probably, I don't know if that's ever happened.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah. Well, think of it this way, Cory. Was Nick Scott significantly better than Keaton Ellis in college? I don't think he was. And I thought Nick Scott was an underrated player here, but I also thought Keaton Ellis was. He was just in a more competitive room. Like the safety room, just it wasn't a fraction of what it was last season. So it was easier to get lost in the shuffle a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Keaton Ellis is a hell of an athlete. And when he had his opportunities, he tended to make the most of them. I don't remember him making a ton of mistakes in coverage or really tackling. It's just he was always behind great safeties. That's going to happen.
Knack for the football too.
Yeah. So, and when you think about being a good athlete, which he is, well, that's the first step. That's the first step to finding a role on special teams and being willing to move, being willing to be position flexible. Like there was out of high school, there's a lot of talk about him being a receiver, and then he moved to corner, and then he moved to safety. So he's shown he's willing to be flexible, and that's the name of the game, to get on a roster as a special teamer. So yeah, I could see that happening.
Too, he was a really good return specialist in high school. Never really had a career there. It's so hard. Almost every good athlete is the returner in high school. And so it's just only one person can do it on your football team in college. But I'd be curious if he gets some opportunities in that regard as well.
Yeah. I mean, I could see a guy like him being a good gunner too.
Yeah.
A lot of speed, pretty good tackler. And again, that's what you need. And when he was in high school, when he had the ball in his hand, when he had a chance to have the ball in his hands, he made some things happen. And even at Penn State, obviously when you're a defense player, your opportunities are more rare, but he tended to make the most of them. He would have had a pick 6 this year against UMass, but it got called back. But wasn't really on him.
Collins, I believe.
Yeah. And I think he would have been gone anyway.
Blocking the back.
But it's on tape, and that's the important thing for scouts.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I like that. Trey Potts, don't necessarily see him getting drafted, but I feel like Trey Potts is a guy that's going to find a way to get onto a roster, just because. Well, first of all, you could argue he won Penn State a couple games this year. I mean, he was a spark when they really needed him, and hell, the Illinois game, I mean, he did a lot in that Illinois game, for example. So has experience. He's a guy you'd want in your locker room, and he's quick enough. Like I when he first came to Penn State, I was like, okay, he's never going to be a burner, but he accelerates really well. And so I'd be curious to see what ends up happening with him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know you could hyper fixate on the 40 time, but I mean, there is such a thing as football speed. And I always felt like when he had the ball in his hands, he did move. Right. He moved faster than it appeared. And like you said, there's a difference between speed and quickness too. There's a difference between being good. And this is one of the things that Kalen King's trying to hang his hat on, is short area quickness, and being able to cover short area of speed of area at a quick time. So and you want to talk about making the most of opportunities. I thought Trey Potts should have played more last year. I said it on here that when Nick Singleton was going through a bit of a sophomore slump in the first half of the year, I was on here saying play Trey Potts more. Like, you have this guy, he has experience, he's played in big games, he's played in the Big Ten before. Let him cook a little bit. And like you said, in certain situations they did, like the Illinois game, he got in some crunch time, and he always made the most of his opportunities, and that's a valuable trait to have as a guy trying to make it in the league.
Yeah, I'm just curious what his stats ended up looking like here. So Trey Potts ended up with, there he is, 2. Oh, I thought he had more than that. So he ended up with 4 total touchdowns. I feel like he had more than that.
6.2 yards a carry.
Yeah.
He had 3 touchdowns.
Well, he threw one too.
I think he had 4 touchdowns. Because he had 2, according to ESPN, he had 2 rushing,
1 receiving,
and a receiving.
Yeah, he had that one against Northwestern receiving, to put things away. Yeah, I'd be curious where he ends up. Otherwise, Johnny Dixon's still not healthy yet, so he wasn't able to perform. Not sure if there was. I didn't see much on Hunter Norzad. Did you?
No, but he was banged up at the combine, I think.
So he might not be 100% there. So yeah, pro day's done. We have some spring practice, and then next, combine. So combine's right around the corner.
Combine cast. You mean draft?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the
I
draft.
think that's what you meant.
Yeah, we're right around talking about draft, which was always an exciting time. I don't know how much, Sean, before we get to spring practice and talk about that. Also, later on in the show today, you guys shared with us some of the games that you've missed over the years, some of the worst games that you've had to miss over the years. So we'll share some of those. Um, I don't know how much I want to talk about Penn State parking at this point. For those that aren't aware, I'll do the justice of letting you know if you didn't get the email or you haven't got the email yet. Unlike previous blue and white games, you will not be able to park wherever you want, and you will get a free pass for where your parking pass is typically. Now, for those season ticket holders like myself that do not have season ticket or season parking passes, because Penn State won't give me the opportunity to buy one, you are just screwed, out of luck. And so, probably the larger population, Sean, that affects people the most about this is not necessarily those people like me. Like $20 at the end of the day, whatever. Like, I'll figure it out. But it is the people that use the blue and white game as their opportunity to tailgate with people they don't always typically tailgate with. So, for example, getting a lot of Penn State fans that don't have season tickets come to the blue and white game. It is their only time ever they can come and see a football game in Beaver Stadium. Let me just record this. There's a lot of Penn State football fans that do not have the ability to come to football games in the fall. The blue and white game is their only opportunity to see a football game in Beaver Stadium. It is their only opportunity to tailgate with friends and family. And they are able to do that because they can all tailgate one spot, all come in together and park wherever you can park. And no, you can no longer do that. And I really think they're maybe missing an opportunity there. I would honestly even maybe get on board with the money's going towards name, image, and likeness specifically, or something like that. But to just basically say we're gonna cut out the tradition of letting people park wherever they want and have the ability to, again, see Beaver Stadium potentially for the first time, taken away from young fans. All this is doing is hurting the younger fans, the people like me and younger, from experiencing Penn State football and the traditions. If I am unable to get season parking passes, therefore I'm considering why should I even show up? And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are like, well, if I have to pay or if I can't park where I want to park, if I can't park with my friends, then I'm probably not going to go. And imagine for the younger fans, the ones that this is their only chance ever to be in Beaver Stadium until maybe they come to college, and they're not going to probably be able to do that, not just because of having to pay for parking, but because maybe they're coming just because their parents are making them come and their parents don't want to do it anymore. So I just think it was Sean, and this isn't even a Penn State problem. This is just a problem I think we have in society today where we always have to change things. Like, why can't things just be kept how they are? Sometimes things are okay. Sometimes things we're doing are fine, and then just leave them as they are. And you're upsetting fans that typically have no reason to be upset. And I think that is not the demographics that you want to be upsetting right now. I
Well,
guess
it's
I did
fun.
want to talk about it.
Well, it's funny too. Like you said, there's a lot of like talk for change, sometimes for change's sake. But the funny thing, the things that were always changing somehow always end up getting the rich richer, getting the universities more money. Somehow it's always benefits them. If we want something for someone who doesn't have a whole lot, or in this case the fans, all of a sudden it's really hard, and we just can't do it. Just can't do it. Can't do anything to benefit, us commoners. Just make our lives harder. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's more of a societal thing than anything.
Do you think it was done because the people that have maybe the pristine parking passes want to be able to roll in there? I don't even know. I'm assuming the game's at like 2:00. Want to be able to roll in there at 1:00 and have their spot?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the bourgeois getting what the bourgeois wants, and they tend to win the day pretty much all the time. And it's just like you said, it's just too bad. Like, I remember when now the game itself is still free. I remember when parking for the blue white game used to be free. You should just not have to pay to park, and then you had to pay to park. Okay, you have to pay to park. At least the game's still free, which, count your days, not going to be free much longer. And now, they're doing this. And
so here's my thing. Okay, you're gonna give free parking for people that have season parking passes, but not other season ticket holders that you haven't even given the opportunity to buy parking passes.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, I've never even been a season ticket. I've never been a season ticket holder except when I was in college, my whole life, ever. And I have been one of those people before where, yeah, my parents were raising 3 kids, and sometimes it's hard to go to football games in the fall and bring 3 boys with you and pack the car and, pay for food. And now that I'm an adult, yeah, I don't even have kids yet. So I totally understand it. And the blue white game was our one guaranteed game that we'll get to go to. And now you gotta pay to park in the boonies for us non-season ticket holders. Or in your case, Cory, you pay, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year for season tickets, and then you have to go to you have to go to a third party and buy parking passes, and it's already been discussed on here that they could just jack up those prices however much they want. So
yeah,
everybody just gets screwed in the end. Well, not everybody. The school's fine; they're doing great, but we're the ones getting screwed.
I'll just share the story quickly. So when this news broke, I immediately messaged the person I bought season parking passes from on Facebook. I messaged this person and I said, "Hey, you would have received 3 blue and white parking passes. Would you mind sending me one? And by the way, I'm probably looking at purchasing parking from you for next year, but we can talk about that later." And that person said, "I will give them to you for $20. One of them for $20." And I told this person, "Well, I already paid you 2 times what you paid for the season parking. You just happened to get the blue and white pass. Theoretically, that should be my blue and white pass, not yours. I already paid you twice the amount. You didn't have to do anything for that additional parking pass." And he said, "Well, I'm a season ticket holder." I'm like, No. I'm a season ticket holder. It has nothing to do with a season ticket holder." And he said, "I don't have to tell you, $20. That's how much it cost last year to get into the blue and white for parking. That's how much I'm going to charge for." I'm like, no, I'm just not doing that with you. But that, to me, like, that's where we're at. A season ticket holder having to go to a secondary market like Facebook to hopefully get a parking pass. Like, now, to be fully transparent, you can go online right now and book or pay for certain lots $20 to get in for blue and white. You can do that right now. So fully transparent, you can do that right now. And in fact, it's kind of funny that he was charging me $20 for the lot I have for season parking when I can pay $20 for a lot closer. So, good luck to him. It's just, Shawn, again, I feel like every week we come on here and it's just one thing where I'm just like, maybe I'm just getting old. I don't really know. and starting to yell at clouds. But it's just like, why is it becoming harder and harder for me to enjoy Penn State football?
I mean, I think that's the $1 million question for everybody, Cory. If you take a poll of college football fans, and like you said, maybe we sound like a couple of old guys because look, we're not getting any younger, and our time in college passed many moons ago now for both of us. But if you took a poll of college football fans from, we'll go 25 to 85, and you ask them, do you think college football is moving in a positive direction? What would it be? 80 to 90% would probably vote no. And that's just a bad sign for the sport as a whole. And that's just, we talk all the time about the problems with college football. And yeah, I think it's just not going in a great direction right now. And I think the people who are getting the shaft the most are the fans. And again, everybody's making a ton of money. These big TV contracts, the schools are getting a boatload of money. The coaches are getting more money than ever. It feels like every coordinator now, and look, I don't count anybody's money. I don't. But every coordinator now, they're all making north of $1 million if they're at a major school.
Maybe even two.
Sometimes two. And again, I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. I don't judge people for how much money they make. I don't. The players are getting paid now. And again, good for them. I'm for the players getting paid. But everybody's doing so well. But the fans are always the ones that have the short end of the stick at the end of the day. And again, it's not just a college football problem. It's try to go to an NFL game. It's even more expensive. Try to go for my fiance, big Broadway fan. Try to go to a Broadway show. It would blow your mind how much a lot of these tickets are. So I think it's just a problem in general. And hey, we're always the ones that are footing the bill because they know we'll be there. So I guess we're the real suckers in the end, huh?
You never count your money while you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when NIL is done. That's all.
And then we were just talking before about, eventually this whole thing probably going to collective bargaining at some point across college football. So let's just do it now.
There's a big, speaking of that,
because I think it's going to be I know there'll be downsides to it. I get it, but it's going to be better than this.
It's hard to imagine this being the future long-term. Sustainable is the word I was looking for. Dartmouth. I didn't read too much into it, but Dartmouth basically, and to be fair, it's the Ivy League, but basically came out and said that they do not recognize students as employees. There's some stuff going on over there at Dartmouth. Again, I haven't read on and investigated it. I would recommend, if you're interested in getting specifics and where this is probably heading. What's going on over in Dartmouth right now is interesting. Again, it's a little bit different because in the Ivy League, you do actually have to have good grades in order to play football. And so they only are allowed so many scholarships before you have to basically prove your academic worthiness before you're allowed to play. So it's a little bit different circumstance there, but the point still stands that there's some traction going on right now about athletes becoming employees. And that's probably not going to go anywhere as we head into the spring.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's eventually where we're going. I think most of the people who are involved in college football, that cover college football, the coaches, I think we all kind of know it, but it's just a matter of when. And then you wonder, because most things in college football take a while to fix. Like I was hearing about Ed O'Bannon 15 years ago. In the video game thing. You were hearing about Ed O'Bannon for a long, long time. And for those who don't know who Ed O'Bannon is, he sued the NCAA, long story short, because his name his likeness was featured in a video game, and the players weren't getting compensated for it. And that was when the NCAA should have fixed all of this, and then they didn't. And then 2021 came, the Supreme Court made their ruling, and then we got NIL. So that's typically how things go. It takes over a decade. I don't think we have over a decade to wait. Like, I think this has to be fixed within the next 2 years. Or, I mean, you just take a look at Caden Proctor. I don't know if you saw.
I did.
So Caden Proctor was, Penn State recruited him. I think we may have even talked about him early on in the show when we were first starting out, when I was first starting out here. So Caden Proctor committed to Alabama, played at Alabama last year, started for them in the Rose Bowl. So made an instant impact. Then Nick Saban retires. He announces he's going to transfer to the home state of Iowa.
Perhaps some tampering going on.
Probably some minor tampering. He kind of admitted it, but okay. Tampering is rampant in college football, and we could get into that. But so he goes to Iowa, spends the spring there. Spring practice is spends the winter there. Spring practice is starting, just like at Penn State. Then all of a sudden, after he gets a bunch of NIL deals, he goes back in the portal, goes back to Bama, like within what? I don't even think he really went in the portal. He probably went in for like 5 minutes and went back to Bama. Like, crazy. What are we doing here, guys? Like, at some point,
snip snap.
Yeah, it's a snip snap thing. He's Michael Scott. Like, at some point, and look, I'm not going to rag on a 19-year-old kid. I'm not going to do that. But it's that he's allowed to do it is the problem. That there are no, that I remember when the letter of intent that you would sign on signing day, that was going to bind you to that school, barring anything unforeseen. And then you'd have to sit out a year if you were going to transfer. Yeah, or LOIs mean absolutely nothing now.
Yeah.
You could go to a school, go to another school, get paid, get a big boatload of money, and bring it back to your old school. This is not the way it's supposed to go, everybody. And the NCAA just does nothing. We're just whistling past the graveyard.
If anything, we know the NCAA has no power now.
They don't.
That's been clearly stated at this point.
But like, the thing is, nobody does. Nobody's doing anything. The conferences are asleep because everybody's waiting for another person to do it. The NCAA is waiting for, I don't know what they're waiting for. I think they just threw their hands up after they lost at the Supreme Court after failing to fix something that they had 15 years to fix. So they just threw their hands up and gave up. The conferences don't want to do anything. I mean, this is the problem. Everybody knows it's a problem, but nobody's fixing it.
I will say this, though. I think one of the biggest things when it comes to Penn State NIL specifically was a lot of, what we had seen early on with Penn State NIL back when there was, before it was combined to what we have now. I think Penn State fans, and I'm sure there's other NILs out there that maybe weren't as good as this either, but I really struggled as a Penn State fan to see the value in like what I was getting to donate. And I will give credit again to Mercury who helps us with the show here. What Mercury is doing to provide actual content to people that are, on the fence or maybe are willing to donate but want to see something in return. What Mercury is doing in that regard, I think is beneficial, right? Like, if I get to see content, or in the case of the blue and white game, we're going to be at Medler Park, talking with some people, and people can get tickets for that and hang out with Letterman, and more importantly, hang out with us. Like that, there's value added there. And it's important that not only do you provide that value, but you document that value and you share that value on social media and whatnot, and you kind of grow the thing. So I think it's, I think Mercury's in that sense is hitting a home run in that regard. But also, I just want to say, are you paying too much for health insurance? Too busy to read long, complicated policies? Meet Patrick Motti of Motti Health, a former Penn State Letterman and your new health insurance coach. Patrick leverages years of expertise to offer customized insurance solutions to help you develop a coverage game plan that secures your family's health and their future. As a father, Patrick understands the importance of reliable health coverage for your family, from individual plans to family coverages. Patrick ensures you get the best protection for your health and your budget. Get a brother a parking pass. Madi Health. One broker, endless solutions. As far as I know, still offering a $500 cash bonus for every customer referral. Say that the boys from Hardcore Penn State Football brought you it. So quit overpaying for health insurance. Visit MadiHealth.com to schedule a free, not what it is now for the blue and white games, what it used to be for blue and white games. Free consultation with Patrick today.
And if he's giving out free parking passes, let us know. He's got
Might have
3 of them. I'm sure he wouldn't charge $20 for the blue white game parking pass. But yeah,
I think that might have been my best read through so far.
you did really, really well. The more you do it, the better you get. I'm very impressed.
To be honest with you, I would need to talk to our boss Hackenberg, and I forgot to ask if like that promotion's over, or like have they paid for their ad reads? Like, are we not even supposed to be reading that ad read anymore? I don't know. I'm just gonna read it until someone tells me no.
We just really like Patrick Madi.
We do.
So
well, that part is 100% true. That
might even. We'll do it till we're told we're fired. If they say you cannot read Patrick Madi's ad anymore, you're terminated. Okay, well at that point we'll stop. But if not, we're just gonna keep doing it.
We're just gonna keep doing it. You want to talk spring practice, or you have anything else you want to say on the NIL world?
No, I think we beat that to death. Let's go to spring practice. It did not feel like spring this week. Last week,
no, it was back. It's been like randomly snowing
that we once a year get here.
Yeah, it was windy. It's still windy. I want to say this, and I don't know anything about Pennsylvania weather because, as you know, I just moved back not even a year ago yet. I just feel like it's like insanely windy this year. Like it's just been windy. Like
it's
really
windy in
windy.
State College.
Yeah,
State College is windier than here.
Okay. Like I mean, I just again. Oh, I don't know if I ever told you this story. But you know, former Penn State coach lives across the street from me. And you know, our recycling and our garbage is picked up on Thursday mornings. So usually we put it out there Wednesday. So does the neighbor across the street. And I went to put mine out after the podcast, and it was so windy. Like I didn't even get out of the garage with it. I was like, yeah, this isn't happening. I'm gonna have to wake up early to put it out there. Well, as I'm like, I went and checked the mail, I think. And as I'm like walking back, a big wind gust comes through. And, you know, again, former Penn State football coach's recycling, like his entire recycling bin is in midair, like probably like 6 feet in the air, just flying down the street. And like recycling's going everywhere. I mean, it probably went for like 100 or 200 yards. I'm like, oh, man, why couldn't it just wait until I didn't see it? Now I'm feeling bad. So I run down his recycling bin in my PJs, mind you, and knock on his door at like 10 o'clock at night. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I just caught your recycling bin that was, you know, halfway down the street. But that's what we've been dealing with.
Did you get a thank you?
Yeah, he was very thankful. Yeah,
I didn't know if he acted like a jerk or not.
No, he didn't. I was like, do you want me to help, you know, bring the rest of it in?
Okay.
He's like, oh no, I'm just gonna lay it all down on the ground. He's like, I'm not getting up that early to bring it out. But I think it might be one of those nights again where I don't put it out there because it's just, I mean, it's windy.
Yeah, it's let me see what it's.
We had some windy like alerts come in that were telling us, you know, don't fly a kite. You know
wind gusts up to 33 miles per hour today in Scranton. So it's windy up here too.
Yeah, we're up to 45.
From home, so I only go out. Oh wow. Yeah, like I said, it's always. I noticed at State College as compared to Scranton, it always rains slightly more in State College. Temperatures were always about the same, and it was windier. So
teach their own.
Yeah.
You know what? Before we go to the next topic, we did get some messages about 7 minutes ago on YouTube. So, this is from Robert Parker. I'm worried the first thing that will happen if they do become employees will be roster shrinkage down to like 65. They'll probably have to make some kind of age limit. Let's say it's 24 or 25. There goes high school recruiting at major programs unless you're Travis Hunter. That's a good point. Like then only the cream
there are
of the
going to be
crop.
downsides.
Sean, can you either sit up a little bit or just put your camera down a smidgen? Thank you.
Yeah, there are going to be downsides to it. I don't think anybody disputes that, but I think just with how crazy this has gotten, and really, to be honest with you, I think NIL would be a little more tolerable if the portal was fixed. Because the portal, and like I said, I don't care if a guy transfers. I think everybody, well, let me back up. I think everybody should have the right to transfer one time without penalty, period. One time without penalty. I think the problem that we run into is you have guys transferring twice in a few months and then playing. And you'll have a guy transfer a couple times. And then when he graduates, when he's a grad transfer, he transfers again. So to me, that's something that needs to be fixed. Like I said, if you get to a place you realize this isn't really for me, okay, or your coach leaves, all right. And by the way, I'm okay with some exceptions, like if a coach leaves, because like it or not, you commit to the coach. So if Nick Saban, if you're an Alabama football player, Nick Saban leaves, I think you should be able to transfer without penalty. I don't have any problem.
Yeah, I think they got that one right.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. But if you're at a school like Penn State, who's had the same head coach for 10 years now, yeah, one-time transfer. If you realize Penn State's not the place for you, I get that. Pick somewhere else. But that's kind of where I'm at on it.
Spring practice, Sean. What, 3 days in, 3 practices in now, right? Tuesday. Yeah. They'll have their 4th practice tomorrow. The media gets a small sliver per usual. To no surprise, it sounds like the defense is way ahead of the offense, which I think we all expected that. Still a lot of really good players on defense. I think one of the rooms that we should talk about today, because I don't know if we really talked about them at all last time, was the cornerback room and where that kind of is. You have Zion Tracy and you have Cam Miller, but then you also have Kimber and Harris, the two new guys coming in. And it seems like a very highly competitive room right now.
Yeah. I think Franklin spoke pretty highly of Harris and how well he's been competing. He also spoke about Kimber. And Kimber's a guy who played a lot of football. He started at Florida last season. He's bounced around a little bit. And it's when you have so many question marks, so many first-time or not quite first-time guys, like Cam Miller played sparingly last year. Zion Tracy played sparingly last year. You have so many newcomers, it's hard to really see how it's all going to shake out. But again, if there's one coach that I trust on the staff, it's Terry Smith. And he's going to find a way to get a good product on the field. Corner is another spot. We were talking about safety. Compared to just like 5-6 years ago, it's just night and day, isn't it?
How many better players they have in there?
Yeah. I don't want to disparage anybody, but like Tariq Castro Fields, like he just really wouldn't have a spot on like last year's team or 2022's team.
Yeah, even a guy like O'Davian Collins, who transferred from Mississippi State, is doing some good things. It's just hard to see exactly where he's going to fit, even though he's been here for a little bit now. And by all means is a good player. And they continue to bring in such good talent from the high school realm that guys that you think could maybe play right away. It's a really, really competitive room. And it doesn't matter who they bring in, whether it's in the transfer portal or in a recruiting class. They just seem to come in and compete right away.
And hey, we've talked about Ohio State and how many great quarterbacks they've developed and how it just seems like every year Like, oh, JT Barrett left. Okay, they'll take a step back. Then Dwayne Haskins comes in and they're fine. Oh, Dwayne Haskins left. Oh, CJ Stroud is actually better than Dwayne Haskins. And this was the first year, really, that you really saw a bit of a downgrade at quarterback. But I think you see a similar thing in our cornerback room, in our safety room, that we're going to reload, even though, yeah, we're going to lose some guys, and that happens. But we're going to recruit so well, we're going to develop so well, we're going to be able to withstand losing these really good players, and heck, maybe these guys will be better than what we had last year. You never know.
Yeah, I definitely can understand some fan perspective worried about where Zion Tracy and Cam Miller are, just because they did get a little roasted in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, my money's a little bit on AJ Harris. I'm excited about that guy and what he might be able to do.
I think he's going to be top dog, yeah.
Another guy, not in a corner room specifically, but man, we just keep hearing about Zakee Wheatley. I mean, we talked about him, I feel like, a decent amount last week, but I believe Franklin went out of his way again to highlight him and talk about how he's playing his best ball right now, and mention how they want to probably play three safeties. Whether, that's probably Jalen Reed, Kevin Winston Jr., and Zakee Wheatley. Not exactly sure if that means they're going to be using that person as a nickel or they're going to be using that person as a linebacker. But regardless, it doesn't really matter as long as that person's out there.
Yeah. I was going to mention Zakee Wheatley as well. Franklin just keeps talking about him and how the light has come on for him. And, I think he's always had ability and he has a nose for the football, and you can't really teach that. That's really something that you're either born with or you just don't have it. And he's always had that, but it's just becoming more of a well-rounded player and a more consistent player. And consistency was always Wheatley's, a bit of a shortcoming for him. He's always been able to flash, but it's just being able to do it on a consistent basis. And from what it sounds like, he is doing that in practice. And we know that safeties are featured pretty heavily in Tom Allen's system. So it's going to be really, really exciting to see him, to see what he could do at that safety spot, since he'll be having since he's going to have the opportunity for more playing time, with having three safeties on the field as often as we're probably going to have this year.
Right. I don't know how many problems this defense is going to have in general.
Not a whole lot. I think this is a top 10 defense in the country. Like last year, okay, they were probably top 3. I still think they're top 10.
Right.
This is still a really damn good defense. We just lost a couple of our best players. But again, that's going to happen sometimes. Like Georgia's defense last year wasn't as good as their one from the year before. Why? Because they lost so many good players. That happens.
The one before was
they were
literally
still really
one of the
good.
best of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Their 2022 defense was worse than their 2021 defense. Oh, it didn't matter. They still won the national championship. Like, yeah, that's going to happen sometimes. But it's more about reloading. It's more about having, Franklin and all great coaches really talk about having a standard. And it's about meeting that standard and doing it developing. And if you're developing your guys the right way, you're never going to have you rarely will have a year with a huge drop off, especially these days when you have the portal to be able to reload. And get a guy like an AJ Harris.
It's almost inexcusable not to reload.
Yeah, like it should be a little easier now, provided you have a stable coaching staff, which Penn State, I know we lost our coordinators last year, but James Franklin's still there. He's been there a long time. And we really didn't have a ton of transfer attrition. So we're in a good spot that we're able to use the portal to our benefit and bring in a guy like AJ Harris. Because after the Peach Bowl, I remember coming on here and saying, we need a corner or two. And we got him. So
they don't always do that, but they were able to do it for corner.
Yeah. And when you put guys in the league like we've been doing, And these guys on Sunday are going to watch Joey Porter Jr., AJ Harris. I was actually reading his 24/7 recruiting profile. Do you know who he was comped to?
Can I a Penn State player?
Penn State player, former Penn State player now.
Joey Porter Jr.
Joey Porter Jr. So you watch a guy.
I think I honestly saw that too.
Yeah. So you watch a guy on Sunday, he's ready out of the box to playing for the Steelers. Yeah, that's going to really help you because a guy like Harris is going to see Penn State as a place that can get him to the league. And Terry Smith has a track record of doing that. I mean, got Grant Haley, Amani Oruwariye. So these guys that didn't quite have the talent of a Joey Porter Jr. or even a Kalen King, they were still able to be in the league and have a very productive career for themselves. So a guy like Harris looks and says, well, Terry Smith's been doing it a long time. Penn State's a good school. I liked them out of high school. I'm going to go to Penn State. So it's always good to have the portal as your friend and not your enemy.
Yeah. I want to mention something that's been the case now for both media viewings. Denied Dennis Sutton has not participated. Not sure if that's just a not during a viewership thing or there's something else going on. I mean, I'm not going to complain about an injury or speculate or reading the tea leaves on March 20th. I mean, he's going to be a starter no matter what, even if he doesn't participate all summer. But haven't seen any denied Dennis Sutton yet.
Yeah, things have been kind of quiet with him. So you do wonder what's going on. And like I said, I don't know. It could be anything. This is the time of year to nurse injuries. So especially with the guy who has the experience of a denied Dennis Sutton, who's been here for 2 years.
And did not have a winter workout competitor of the day either, which I would argue is probably not because he is not a competitor, but maybe because he wasn't being able to participate fully.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing you heard about denied Dennis Sutton, like he enrolled late in 2022. I don't think his high school allowed him to enroll early. And I remember them talking about him and how it didn't really, like, he was so locked in, he was still ready to go because he was because he worked so hard. So work ethic is one of the big pluses for denied Dennis Sutton. So I'm thinking he's probably, I mean, like I said, you don't want to speculate, but looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It ain't a damn mongoose. So.
Right. You know what? Before we move on from, well, we can move on from your comment for sure. Before we move on from the corners completely, I just wanted to mention Antoine Belgrave Shorter. That was a guy we both really liked in this past recruiting class, and some of the guys that at On 3 were harping about him a little bit this morning. Just wanted to give a shout out to him. It seems like he's putting some things together there. We thought he was very severely underrated coming out, and it seems like he's already making a good impression.
Yeah, I mean, Daquan Hardy was a low 3-star guy. I think he was the lowest rated recruit in his class, and he ended up being pretty good for us. So, and he's gonna make some NFL team very happy. And a guy like John Urschel was the lowest rated guy in his class. So somebody who got to be it doesn't define who you are. There are lots of reasons why, that could happen. And you could be a little underrated. And yeah, he's going to be fine. He's a player.
I asked you about this last week, I want to say, about Abdul Carter moving to defensive end, if that means he starts. Chop Robinson had a comment during Pro Day where he was like, Abdul Carter is going to be a problem at defensive end. Although I don't disagree with that. I mean, do you still feel like he's a starter next to denied Dennis Sutton, or is this really a moot point that it's going to be such a combination of all of them that it's not even really worth trying to decipher who's the starter and who's not?
Yeah, I mean, they're all going to play. Do I think Abdul Carter gets most of the snaps? Yeah. And denied Dennis Sutton? Yeah. I mean, those are two guys that are in all likelihood this time next year, they're going to be getting ready for the draft. So you play guys like that. They get the most snaps. But do I think Amin Vanover is going to play a lot? Yeah. Zariah Fisher is a guy that by all accounts had a really good winter. He's going to play a lot. If a guy like Smith Filbert could stay healthy, he's going to play. And not to mention Jameel Lyons, who we both really like. So there's going to be a lot of guys who play. Penn State is always rotated. They like to keep guys fresh for the fourth quarter. So they're all going to get in. But I would be surprised if Abdul Carter didn't play most of the snaps along with Denai Dennis Sutton.
Gotcha. Yeah, I tend to agree. And I don't know if I'm going to necessarily have the closure that I want in the blue and white game, because I doubt we get to see much of Abdul Carter. But I just want to see more of him playing there before I just crown him a starting spot. I know he has the athletic ability. I know he's really good at pass rushing, but I just want to see more of it before I necessarily just am okay with it.
Yeah, and he's got to learn. Obviously, it's a whole new position at this level. So I'm sure he's got some things to learn. I'm sure guy like Amin Vanover, who's played a lot of football at Penn State, probably has an edge on him right now. Wouldn't be surprised if he's behind him, but Abdul Carter's going to put things together by the time the season rolls around, I think.
Any other defensive thoughts as of right now?
They're really good.
Yeah. Offensively, we kind of hinted at
not
this.
Offensive.
No. Offensively, we mentioned, I think, Cooper Cousins before spring practice even started as someone to pay attention to. Yeah. Cooper Cousins is already. I think Nate Bauer mentioned that Devon Ellies was talking a lot about Cooper Cousins, and said that he's never he's not sure if he actually leaves the facility. I'm not going to sit here on March 20th again and say Cooper Cousins is going to outbeat the incumbent Nick Dawkins, who's been there, who's a leader, who's vocal, or anything like that. But I think Cooper Cousins is going to find himself on the field sooner rather than later, based off of that work ethic. He's been committed to Penn State for a long time, was kind of the captain of the class. I think he's going to be one of those prototypical Penn State centers when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I don't usually like saying that offensive linemen are going to burn red shirts, even in today's day and age, where you could have 4 games plus a bowl. But if there's one guy to do it, it'll be Cooper Cousins. And like I said, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but feels like it's very possible. Because of what you said, the one thing you constantly hear about him is how ready he is. And his body, a lot of times when you're a freshman, especially in the trenches, when you're standing next to a guy like a Sal Wormley, who's been in the program for years and years, or a guy like Drew Shelton, you notice a difference in their way their bodies look. Cooper Cousins, it ain't really that, there isn't that big difference when he's standing next to his peers. So, yeah, I'm expecting him to play. Like I said, I probably wouldn't go so far as to say he's going to burn a red shirt, but this guy's going to get in.
Yeah, and again, if you are in the 2 deep, you don't know what the heck's going to happen. You might be on the field a lot sooner than you realize.
Look at Drew Shelton.
Right, exactly. Which, good segue, Drew Shelton, banged up for the spring, not going to be able to participate. James Franklin spoke about JB Nelson and how he's going to be probably kicked out to tackle, at least to get through the spring, but probably shouldn't expect him to stay out there, Sean.
Yeah, and I know he's been banged up, but when Franklin's talked about him, he doesn't seem all that worried. So I think he'll be fine. And I sound like a broken record, but this is when they'll have procedures if they have to do them and things like that too. And yeah, I wouldn't expect to see him if you're looking for him out in the blue-white game and you're worried that he hit the portal. He didn't. He's still there, but he's just nursing something. He's got a thing.
Sean, I want to talk quarterbacks. I think this is what you wanted to focus on. You sent a text message was it today or yesterday, about what Andy Kotelnicki wants to do offensively. I'm curious. Well, first of all, tell people what AK wants to do. And then secondly, do you agree with it? And do you think it's going to work?
Yeah, so Kotelnicki wants the quarterbacks to run. And I think there's a reason they were going through that drill. And he even said he had an open press thing after practice, like Franklin does. He was talking about how he wants the quarterbacks to be ball carriers. So, do you think Bill Belichick ever told Tom Brady, "Hey, I want you to be a ball carrier"? I don't think he did. So this is going to be an emphasis. This is going to be something they emphasize. Andy Kotelnicki and James Franklin share a vision of a quarterback who runs, and they are going to require that Drew Rattler run. Now, am I saying they're going to ask him to be Sean Clifford or Trace McSorley? No. I think they know his limitations, but do I think they're going to ask him to run more than he did last year? Yeah. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. Drew Rattler's a big guy. He could take hits. Do I want to see him taking a ton? No. But on 3rd and 1s, yeah, I'm totally fine with running a quarterback power with him, or 3rd and 3. Like, why not? You have this big battering ram, use him. Now, I'm not saying run him to the line 17 times like we did with Will Levis. Not saying that, but could we utilize his athleticism? Yeah. And I don't think he's a tremendous athlete by any stretch of the imagination, but he could run a little bit, and he's a big dude. So I think you got to be able to utilize him. So personally, I don't really have much of a problem with it.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot last week. To me, when does it become trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, right? When does it become? I agree. You need to have a mobile quarterback in today's college football, some sort of mobility, right? But Drew Aller is not going to be your Bo Prabula. If you want a Bo Prabula, then just use Bo Prabula. But to me, I feel a little bit like, and maybe this isn't the case, but we're kind of stuck, right? You have your 5-star quarterback who has a heck of an arm. Maybe he hasn't fully developed the confidence to use that arm appropriately, but you can't necessarily bench that person for less arm talent, but maybe somebody who has better running ability in Bo Prabula, right? Like, you can't do that, but at the same time, you can't 100% rely on just Drew's arm at this point, or who he's throwing to.
Yeah, another thing that Andy Kotelnicki said was he's going to put his best, he's going to do whatever he has to do to win a game. And again, that's something you do hear from a lot of coaches. We always talk about coaches.
You would hope they would try to do that.
But Andy Kotelnicki kind of did it at Kansas. Like, he would use unbalanced lines. He would use multiple quarterbacks. So he didn't say I'm going to use 2 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks, but he did say I'll use 8 offensive linemen if we have to. And he may mention that he would use 8 running backs if it wasn't illegal. So he's going to play Bo like a lot more. Like, I'm expecting him to play a lot more than he did last season. Like, I can't see us playing Ohio State again and not using Bo Prabula. I just don't think that's going to be what Andy Kotelnicki does. And are there some times that he's probably going to get a little too creative for his own good? Probably. I experience it with Mike McDaniel quite a bit, where he gets too creative and there are things that drive me nuts about him. But I do think you have to do something. I do think there's some things worth trying. And you have to be willing to fail sometimes and have some things blow up in your face a little bit. And I don't think having Bo Prabula, who's one of your better athletes, I don't think it's going to blow up in your face quite as much as maybe a guy like Mike Yurcich figured it would.
Yeah, and he also mentioned, like, whatever they have to do to utilize those players, right? So that to me spoke more of the first thing I thought of is Keandre Lambert-Smith being in the slot. It's the first thing I thought of. Like, that's where Keandre Lambert should eat most of his dinners from. Argraw on YouTube says, any concerns on defense? I was at their first padded practice, and their open field tackling was terrible. Well, you've seen more in person than we have.
Yeah, tell us more.
And I'm not going to raise the red flag on first padded practice having terrible open field tackling. They got some time to fix that. And also, I would argue, people trying to impress a little bit out there, full of confidence. They did really well in winter workouts. You ain't in winter workouts anymore, and you gotta bring your legs with you. You got to bring your hips with you. So wouldn't be too concerned off that alone. But Argraw, hit us up after the show.
Yeah,
let us know what you saw. We'd appreciate that. Follow us on Twitter at HardcorePSUFB and send us a DM.
You know what else is going on Twitter?
Yeah. The effervescent TK. What is his thingy?
I think it's TK PSU. Hold on. One moment, folks. Yeah, it's at PSU _TK. He is a co-host of Nittany Pod, and he has a yearly March Madness Penn State bracket. 64 I think he said Twitter users or podcasters or
beat writers in there too.
Beat writers. And yours truly, Hardcore PSU Football, is going against State Media PSU right now. So if everybody who has a Twitter account, go to PSU _TK, his click on that Twitter. You could find our matchup. Just give us a vote. We'd really appreciate it. And who wouldn't want to beat corporate? Yeah,
exactly.
Let's beat the suits.
We have a decent lead, respectfully, right now. For whatever that's worth.
I voted for us.
Did you just do that right now?
No, I did it.
I think we just got a vote right now. So.
Oh, there we go. I'm a good salesman.
We're doing pretty good. I don't even know. I think we would get Black Shoe Diaries in the Sweet 16.
That's a good matchup. Yeah. We just beat Nittany Pod.
Yeah. Whatever that's worth. I don't know if you guys heard my dog there, but I apologize for that. That was loud.
I did not.
Oh, really? Even like before we started talking about the bracket, you never heard?
No.
Oh, that's good.
I haven't heard your dog all night.
Oh, that's good. Saw another friendly canine out there on the street and decided to go nuts. But
that always gets them going.
Sean, receivers. We've heard some grumblings that things are better and Marcus Higgins is doing a good job. But then, like, some beat reporters are like, I don't know how you wouldn't have concerns about the receivers. So I don't really know where to stand on the receivers. But at the bottom line, I'm probably not going to come out of the spring feeling great one way or another.
No, I mean, I don't really think you could. But I will say this. Last year, going into the season, we heard some things both privately and publicly about the receivers. And we would hear things like, Dante Cephas isn't what we thought he was. Like, we would hear that. So we do hear negative grumblings. And I'm not saying it's been immensely positive, but it doesn't feel like the same kind of trepidation that we felt going into the fall. And Kotelnicki also talked about how they have chips on their shoulders and they all have something to prove. And yeah, that's putting it mildly, I think. Because if they don't have chips on their shoulders, then I don't really know what to tell them, because they were kind of the whipping boy last year for a lot of the fan base. And they were criticized quite a bit. I think most of it was justified. Some of it maybe not. People tended to put everything on them, and I don't really think that was fair. But yeah, they have something to prove. They got to go and show it. But we really won't know until the fall. But I'd rather hear positive grumblings than negative grumblings. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah. You know what is kind of interesting to me, though, is that this time last year, everyone was like, can Keandre Lambert-Smith be the number one wide receiver they need them to be? I feel like we are not asking that question enough of Julian Fleming. Because Julian Fleming was not a number one wide receiver anywhere. In fact, you could argue they had Dante Cephas. Well, maybe not yet at this point, but they were going to have Dante Cephas, who at least was kind of that guy, albeit at Kent State. They don't necessarily have anybody who was a number one, I guess, unless you count Keandre Lambert-Smith, but he's not going to be the number one, at least specifically in that position. I could totally see Keandre Lambert-Smith leading the team in receptions and yards and touchdowns, but just from that slot spot. Do you call him the number one? I don't really know. But is Julian Fleming and at this point pencil in Trey Wallace going to do enough from the outside to give the opportunities to Keandre Lambert-Smith, to give the opportunities to Ty Warren? Because we know those guys can ball if given opportunities to make plays. I'm just, I've heard some really good things about Trey Wallace. Again, from an athletic standpoint, can he stay healthy? Can he put it all together? Those two guys, in my opinion, not enough questions are being asked about Julian Fleming and Trey Wallace at this point, and or Amari Evans or whoever else, Anthony Ivy, whoever else you want to put in that category.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. I think a guy like Harrison Wallace's biggest thing is just staying healthy. He just hasn't been blessed to avoid the injury bug. And then Julian Fleming, yeah, he's always been third or fourth fiddle on a great receiving core, mind you, but he's never been the guy before, the go-to guy, and he may not be in this offense either. We just don't know how things are going to shake out. So, another thing to pass along, just for what it's worth, Fleming was running with the twos, so I don't want anybody to panic about that. He is new. He just started padded practice last week or 2 weeks ago here. So it's nothing to panic about per se, but it's just something worth giving to you guys. Like I said, I still expect him to start. I don't think, don't read too much into it, but just for what it's worth.
Anything else, Sean? I'm trying to think.
There was a video that Drew Allery threw a really nice ball to Tyler Warren in open practice. So that made me
Hashtag Heisman?
Warren for Heisman.
Sean,
Tyler Warren,
let you get out of here.
Difference.
Let me ask you this question, and we can kind of wrap it up with this, and then we'll get to some of our fans' games that they missed. Do you want to hear, would it be a bad sign to you if you hear that Drew Aller has been taking really good care of the football during spring practice and or summer practice?
I mean, I don't think it would be a bad sign, but I think we would have to have the conversation of, well, this is identical to what we heard last year. We all saw how last year went. But do I think it would be a bad sign? No. Do I think it would be but it's one of those things that's hard to say because we don't see it. Like when it's a lot like trying to get something from the winter workout players of the day. It's hard to really get a grasp on what was actually happening. So I don't think I would be worried necessarily, but a thought would cross my mind that this might not mean a goddamn thing.
Yeah. We asked you, the fans, on Twitter at HardcorePSUFB, is there one Penn State game that you weren't able to watch or view for any reason? What was it and why? Shout out to King of the Road for missing multiple seasons because of deployments. Thank you for your, I'm assuming, service. I mean, deployments. I mean, I guess you could be doing other things, but assuming you're in the military there. Long time. One of the longest time listeners, Kara, 2014 Penn State versus UCF in Croke Park. I was working at American Eagle, got off work, driving home, and turned on the radio to hear Sam Ficken kick the game winner. Which I'm
Steve Jones
curious.
probably had a great call for that.
I'm trying to figure out though, where were you working? Because that was an insanely early game. Did you work like graveyard shift at the American Eagle?
Very well might have, because that game, I think it kicked off at like 7. I went to my grandparents for that one. I think it kicked off at like 7:30 in the morning. So
We'll have
I
to
want
get
to
more
say,
details on it.
I want to say it ended at like 11.
Yeah. Well, I was living in Alaska at the time, and that game came on like 4 in the morning for me. Yeah. This one from Christopher Riley. True story. The only game I missed was in 2018, Penn State versus Indiana. I had to attend a wedding as someone's date and didn't know the couple. The funny part is that 4 years later, I married the bride after her first marriage failed. We got married on a Thursday because of Penn State football. I had not read that one yet, but that is hysterical.
I don't remember the 2018 Indiana game.
2018 Indiana did. No, he would have been gone by then.
Yeah, I don't remember what happened in that game. So you missed a pretty forgettable game, if that makes you feel better. I think
people always say
we lost,
any Penn State couple that gets married on a Penn State football weekend is going to end in divorce. That's what we hear.
People are saying.
Another one from Detra Moran. Or Moran, probably, Moran, sorry. I missed the 2019 Memphis game. I was in a hotel room in Texas with my wife and kids. I was so sick that I couldn't even watch. Well, that's fair enough. Tia Mitchell, I missed the 2019 Penn State Ohio State game. I was in a hospital with my mom who had a heart attack. I feel like that's probably, I was trying to stay a little bit lighthearted with these. Maybe I should read them beforehand. I hope your mom's okay from that. I didn't get any resolution on that. This is from Daniel Antonucci. Had to watch the 2017 Ohio State game intermittently in the back room while working at Subway. Thought we had it won. Came back from a rush to see JT Barrett throwing the winning touchdown pass. I barely made it through the rest of my shift. Longtime listener, DKW, 2011 Alabama visiting Beaver Stadium. I was a groomsman in one of my best high school friends' wedding. My buddy from Penn State got my ticket and went with my parents. That's pretty good. CK Sports, Iowa, 2017, due to a wedding. Turned it off right as Trace threw the touchdown pass to Jawan Johnson. I feel like you didn't miss anything then. If you got to watch the touchdown pass, you didn't get to see the kneel.
No.
Kyle Harris.
Iowa fans still want to
about the punting of the football.
They're still mad about that, which is they're so petty.
2002 Nebraska, despite being this is from Kyle Harris. 2002 Nebraska, despite being a student and having tickets. Ooh. My girlfriend's brother's bar mitzvah was that day. I chided them about being a family that didn't schedule family events around Penn. Chided, thank you, about Penn State football.
God, that would have been a crazy game to go to too.
Yeah, absolutely. Bodies baby 2011 Ohio State had to work, was happy we won though. This was the craziest one to wrap it up. Dr. Big Beef. I missed 6 games in 1996 because I was in Antarctica. I was able to watch the Michigan game on AFN with the time difference. Kickoff was at like 4 in the morning. Pretty awesome reason to miss some Penn State football if you're in Antarctica. So Dr. Big Beef wins that one.
96, we had a good team too.
Yeah.
We beat Ricky Williams in the Fiesta Bowl that year.
Let me see if we missed anything. Okay. So here we go. Our Graw got back to us. He said Drew looked good from the little I saw him. I was watching the line more than anything. Line looked solid. He said he was married on the day of the 2017 Pitt game. We watched the game from the head table on our phone. So I feel like that's reasonable. I feel like any married couple that doesn't like pretend that like the game isn't happening is fine. Like we had, our buddy Higgins' wedding. After the wedding, we all went to the bar and watched the second half.
Yep.
So I think as long as like people don't act like it's not happening, like I don't even care if you have it on, but as long as you don't care if other people like are watching on their phone, like you gotta be reasonable here.
Yeah.
Argraw, thank you for the little insight there on practice.
Yeah, that's very valuable. Anybody who wants to pass anything along, we're all ears. Have you ever missed a Penn State game, Corey?
Oh, I've missed a lot.
Yeah, you were in a military family, so I know.
Yeah, we
TV
missed
probably.
2005 Michigan. We were living in Australia, and it had the old like ESPN game tracker you could watch online. And like all you can see is like the little arrow, and then it was like first down or a little arrow, 2nd and 10, whatever it was, and it would have to tell you what happened below. That's how we watched the Michigan game.
That's a terrible way to lose.
Yeah, and so you just saw it was like what 2 seconds, whatever, and then touchdown Michigan, and you're like, oh, well, that sucks. Didn't watch the play until I don't know months later, probably.
Yeah, it was that. I was actually just talking about that game, and it still fires me up about losing that game. I only missed. So I did have weddings for a few games, but at all the weddings, I would always find a way to watch the game. So I never really counted them as missing games because they all happen to be night games. So, I missed the 2010 Temple game, and
that's so random.
A very obscure game because
is that a Michael Motti interception game? Did we win that game?
Correction.
Like 13-7?
I missed two Penn State games. 2010. Yes, it was a close game. It was the first red flag I had about Rob Bolden. Where I was like, I don't know if this guy's the guy or not.
That was. I think Michael Motti. I want to say it was Motti had an interception.
Something like that happened because we only won like 14-7 or something.
Yeah,
and it wasn't a good Temple team. It wasn't like one of Matt Rule's teams. And then I missed the 2012 Illinois game, which also happened to be the game where I don't. The old heads will remember the beef that Penn State had with Illinois back with the Tim Beckman days, when Illinois had coaches on our campus trying to steal our players right after the NCAA levied the penalty.
We good?
I am. You're still frozen, unless you're being very stoic.
Hello.
I hear you. I just can't see you. Well, I could see you, but you're frozen.
Hello.
I could hear you.
Just wrap us up. We'll get out of here.
All right. All right. So that about does it for us. I'm Sean Kane. That's Cory Lestochi. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in with us tonight. Follow us on Twitter at HardcorePSUFB. Also go on YouTube, State Media PSU. Don't forget to vote for us on Twitter, and have a good night.